Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be part 2 of my labour and delivery. So I'm going to start where it all began. It all began when I was pregnant, coming towards the end at like 37, 35 weeks in between there. I started to get very anxious about going into labour, and I've always been a worrier, but I was told that the baby was on the smaller side and that there was protein in my urine, and I was kind of panicking about how the whole process was going to go down because I was scared of the unknown. As the weeks went by, I got closer to my due date and the day eventually hit. I ended up having to go into hospital that day because they said the baby was going to be small, and if she was too small I'd have to be induced. They did a growth scan and everything was fine. She was normal size and weight by the look of it. I was just carrying a little less water than I should have been. But everything was looking like it was going to be smoothly. So at 40 weeks and 1 day I went over and they did a sweep on me just to kind of get my labour started because I was so exhausted and I had very low iron. So when they did the sweep, I went home. I had like mild cramps. I had a bath and made them worse. But I had only mild cramps for about 5 days, which put me into so much anxiety because I was just waiting for the day to happen. So me being scared as I was about going into labour, the day finally came. I ended up being in bed at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and so it was contractions and blah blah blah. If you want to hear about my labour and delivery story, it is on the last video I uploaded. But I ended up having them contractions and I went into hospital where my waters broke, and the anxiety started getting way more worse. I started feeling sick and paranoid and anxious. I think we all do, because you don't know what's going to happen. As the day went on, they never told me how many centimetres I was all day long, so I was constantly worrying about when I was actually going to give birth, so it put me on edge when it all happened in such a quick amount of time. It just all happened so fast that my brain couldn't understand what was going on in the moment. After I gave birth, I went to my room. I was all fine. I just felt weak and tired like everyone normally does feel after they gave birth. But when I went home, I started to get sick rapidly fast. It was in a matter of hours. I started getting really ill, feeling like I had a cold and feeling like something wasn't right with me, and I just felt in my gut that I weren't going to be in a very good situation anymore. The next day the midwife came over. She took my blood pressure, my heart rate and everything, my temperature, and my heart rate came back at about 147, which isn't right for my age because a normal fit young woman should be at 70, and my blood pressure came back at 170, I'm pretty sure, which it should be at 120 or below or slightly above after giving birth. So they were very concerned and they rushed me straight into hospital. Me being a worrier, I was constantly in my own head worrying what was wrong with me. They never told me what was wrong with me, and everything was just so wrong. I had a high temperature. They said I had an infection but didn't know where. So I was on lots of medicines for it. I was on blood pressure tablets, antibiotics, iron tablets. It was just everything going on at once, and my body just wasn't handling it because of how vulnerable I was at that time. Whilst I was back in the hospital, I think that's when my anxiety kind of took over me a lot. I was feeling like I had the worst ever mum in the world. I felt like I was really bad for getting sick after having a baby, because I had Daisy May at the hospital with me, but I was so ill I couldn't lift her, I couldn't do anything. I was so upset about not being able to have that bonding time that most other mums get to have with the baby after giving birth, but I was too ill to do any of the special stuff I wanted to do. The first night was awful. I didn't get to do any of the night shifts because I was so ill. I ended up just watching my partner look after the baby, which was really sad for me because obviously as a new mum, the first day and night with them, you want to cuddle them and all, but I was so close to being sick constantly. I was too scared to pick her up if I fainted or did something wrong. I just was too afraid of that. Then next day, when I was back in hospital again, I ended up getting treated very poorly by the Neville Hall staff. They ended up not helping me with the baby. They didn't come and check on me as often as I would have liked, because I never knew what was going on, and they really just were very nasty to me. I think it was because of how young I am. They might have not taken me seriously, and I was very anxious that I was so scared. I think they didn't really notice that, and they just kind of rubbed it off as if I was just a new mum being nervous, but I was really freaking out. When I got home, I was relatively I was still really sick for 6 weeks on. I still was really sick coming up over this infection that I had, and I was generally trying to just get better in myself and look after the baby. Over these weeks, I ended up being in my head a lot. I was constantly staring. My mum even mentioned a few times when she would look at me, I was kind of just staring at myself and trying to think of things, and I was just constantly worrying about germs. That's where it all began. When I started getting better, I ended up cleaning a lot. At the same time every day, I was doing ritual cleaning. I would get all the... So sorry. Sorry about that, I'm back. I started cleaning so bad that I was cleaning the house top to bottom with bleach every night, cleaning the tiles, making sure there was no germs anywhere, because I was so ill I was scared to give it to the baby. And that's technically where it all started. I was constantly looking out for signs of symptoms of my medicine making me ill, and I was worried about catching colds, and then this whole coronavirus thing started then, which made me very nervous, because I was constantly worrying about catching this virus and giving it to my newborn baby. So as Christmas came along, I went to the doctors because I knew something wasn't right with me, and I got put on fluoxetine, which is a anxiety and depression tablet. It helped for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then it started to make my anxiety so much worse, which this isn't the case for not everyone, but it was just for me because I have such bad anxiety. I did before I had the baby. But after I had them fluoxetines, I weaned off them, and then I was put on sertraline a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm on propranolol and sertraline, trying to control my symptoms because I was constantly couldn't leave the house. I couldn't go down the street. I literally couldn't even sit in the living room for 5 minutes because I started feeling overwhelmingly sick and anxious. That's where my friend Paige comes into play. We started talking before we gave birth. We had the same due date. Everything was really cool between us. And after we had the babies, she started asking me to come over a while. So I'd come over her house, and it kind of broke the barriers with my anxiety. I was with someone who is going through the same thing as me, being not a new mum but with a newborn baby, so I had someone to relate to a bit, and it got me out the house, and it started to break me from being stuck in all the time, worrying all the time, which I still do worry. It's more of the fact that I'm worried about getting ill and germs. So as I was going over Paige's house more and more, I started to want to go out more, and now that this whole virus thing is going on, being indoors is kind of worrying me, because I've only just overcame the anxiety about leaving the house. Now I'd be stuck inside again when I don't necessarily want to be. Anxiety as a new mum is the worst type of feeling, because you feel like you're on your own, and then you start getting depressed, which is what happened to me. I started getting intrusive thoughts, which mean you think something's going to happen so much that you start worrying about it, and it inhibits into your daily routine. So for me, I was constantly worried that we were going to get into a car accident. When I was in the car with my partner, I'd be constantly saying, well, watch the corner and look at the road, looking at the road. I was constantly bickering with him about him being careful on the road. The other thing I used to have intrusive thoughts about was the baby being asleep and stopping breathing, which sounds really horrifying because it is, but I was constantly worried that when she was asleep that she was going to roll over and suffocate, or she was just going to stop breathing, which is still a worry for every mum, new mum, because they're so small. But it just got to the point where I was awake all night watching her, trying to like make sure she was safe. Depression for me has always been there. I've always suffered from being slightly depressed, but having the baby after it made it emphasise a lot more worse. The same with the anxiety, because in the past relationships I've not been treated the best, and it's caused my anxiety to be on the very top level. I constantly worry about everything I do. I'm constantly thinking about everything I do. So being depressed on top of all of my normal day-to-day worries is very hard, and I can totally relate to anyone else who is going through it at the moment. I'm going to link some numbers in the description box below, so if you can contact them if you're feeling low, or if you're having anxious thoughts or stuff, they can kind of help you and refer you to some people who can really help you in them situations. As I was saying, my anxiety is just at the moment getting better. I'm not fully recovered. I don't think you ever really recover from anxiety, but you just learn how to cope with things. And I just want to be the first person to tell you that anxiety isn't a forever thing. You will get out of it, and you will learn how to cope with it. It's not going to always be there, like treating you like you're not going to get out, and it will work. Whatever you're doing, just keep up, and well, keep doing whatever you're doing. As I said, you'll be fine. Sorry if this video was a bit choppy and all over the place. I'm kind of still struggling with my anxiety at the moment, and I'm really trying to figure out how to describe it to people. But right now this is what I'm actually going through, and I would like if you could leave some tips in the comments below of how to deal with anxieties after birth and being a new mum, some tips about being a new mum. And I was also thinking about making a video on like my daily routine with the baby, like a daily vlogs type thing. I don't know if you would like that through this quarantine period with this whole virus, because I know a lot of you are going to be indoors, so I'll try and keep up on my content to keep you all entertained. But I would like to see what you want to see from me in the comments below, and how often you want me to upload it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want you all to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. And as I said, let me know down below what type of content you want from me and when I should upload it. So peace out.